Today we're going to cover fixing the search bar for if you decide to add action text to your post body like I've done here. We're also going to add in this little admin panel, which only shows up if you are the admin user. If you click on it, it takes you to this panel. We are going to implement the posts. We're not going to implement the comments or the users in this video, but we'll cover the posts because the other two are going to be the same. You can see it has an ID, a post, an author, and the number of comments. Of course, as you build this out more, you could link to different pages by using what we've covered so far. If we click on the actual post itself, it takes you to this little post page with some information as well as some buttons. And it also has the list of comments down here as well. One thing to note is that previously we were doing things pretty inefficiently. In this video, we're going to do it so that when we visit this post page, we're going to hit the database one time instead of 5 times for all 5 of these comments. And then we'll hit it once for the user and once for the post. So in total, we're going to hit it 3 times plus whatever is inside of the body, which is going to be a lot less than, say, our notifications, which, as you can see here, that can span quite a bit. So as your application grows, this type of thing can cause it to slow down considerably. But okay, I'm going to stop the server and I'm going to move over to the actual application. First thing I'm going to do is full screen it. I'm going to say Rails G migration because I want to add the user or add the role to the user. I'm going to give this a role of type integer. Now I could give this a default value by going into the migration file, but instead we're going to do it a different way. And we're also going to add a Rails G migration to remove the body from the post. And I'm just going to hit enter on that. I'm going to exit the full screen here, come over to our VS Code. We're going to go into DB migrate. And we're going to go into not the add role, but this remove one. Now, I don't remember what to type here, but thankfully GitHub Copilot does. So I'm going to say remove the column for the post body, which was of type text, and I'm going to hit Control S. After I've done that, I'm then going to go up to app models user.rb, and I'm going to give this an enum of role, which is going to be a user, or it's going to be an admin. If you want to see more about how to implement these roles, I did cover this in a video, and I'll have a link to that in the card, or you can watch it after this video is over. I'm then going to, do the after initialize to set the default role if this is a new record. So new record is something that exists through Rails, so this just does a check if you're creating a brand new user, but the set default role is just something that I made up. So to implement it, we're going to come down here, we're going to type private. We're going to hit enter twice, and then we're going to say set the default role to be self.role, or if you don't already have a role, we want this to be equal to the user type. Now that we've done that, let's come down to our DB and our seeds file because we need to change our seeds a bit. I'm actually going to get rid of this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user. I'm going to create a user for my dean@example.com with a password of password, and I'm going to give it a name of Dean. And then I'm going to give it a role of user.roles admin. So I'm now creating Dean as an admin account. In terms of our john@doe.com, I'm going to tab this over so it looks better, but I'm not going to make him an admin. I'm going to make him a user. Now you can either do that by declaring it, or I'm going to make sure it works. I'm going to leave it blank. And then our after initialize should set it because it doesn't have a role. So this will go over to here and set it equal to that. Once that's done, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say 10.timesDo. I'm going to tab this over and then I'm going to create a post. I'm going to come down here and hit end just so that my formatter stops yelling at me. Once that's done, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do exactly 5.timesDoY, and I'm going to create a set of comments here. I'm going to give it a body of just whatever to give it a name or something. A user ID is going to be the second user, and the post ID is going to be the post.id. Once that's done, we can then go ahead and test this out. I'm going to exit out of the full screen and come over to the console. And then here, I'm going to do a Rails DB : drop command to drop my database, a Rails DB : migrate command to migrate it, and a Rails DB : seed command to seed my database. Now here it's telling me I don't have this body type, which it's 100% correct about. So in the actual post, it's trying to create a body here, which means we have to come into the post because we did generate that migration that removed the body down here. So we have to come into the post. We have to say that this has underscore rich underscore text as the body. And then I'll save that, come over here, we'll screen this. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to say Rails DB colon drop, just because I might have generated those 2 user accounts already. Rails DB colon migrate and Rails DB colon seed again. So now we can see we have that. I'm going to type Rails S to start the server. And then I'm going to come over here and click on the home page. Now I'm getting this error, which I think some of you did have in the previous video. And now I can sort of help explain why. Essentially, the post.body no longer works like it used to. So when Ransack tries to grab the underscore body underscore or, it doesn't work. If I say at post equals post.first, and I try to do at post.body, it's now of type action text. It's no longer regular text. So now if I do at post.body.body, that gives me an action text content with this div. If I do at post.body.body.to underscore plain underscore text, you can see that this is what we used to get. Now, of course, that's quite a bit to have to deal with. So instead, what we can do, if I come over here and full screen, underneath this has rich text body, what we can do is we can say it has one content, and I'm just calling it that so that we can stop doing body.body. So instead now it'll be content.body, and I'm going to give it a class underscore name that I set equal to action text colon rich text comma as record dependent destroy. This is just going to be something that we use specifically to search through our Ransack. So now we can come into our index, which is in our views, search, and our form. And in front of this underscore body, what we want to do is we'll say title underscore or underscore content underscore body, and then yada, yada, yada. We'll save that, refresh the page, and it's no longer throwing an error. Now, if I want to search for some of this stuff, let's say this 9 words right here, I click search, it's going to throw an error because truncate words doesn't exist. The reason why is if I try to type post.body in here, it's the same thing. It's giving us this action text. So let's come over to our search and our index page, and let me full screen this. We're going to take this post.body, and then we're going to say .to underscore plain underscore text dot truncate words. I'll hit Control S, refresh the page, and then I'll say, let's search for 9 words, and it takes us to this 9 words. Now, if we go and log in, I'll say dean@example.com with a password of password. Come over to the blog, I'll click on this first post, and I'll click edit. I don't like this editor here because, as you can see, it's trying to add in the tricks content. So let's go into our posts and our form. Let me full screen this. And let's change this body to be rich underscore text underscore area. Refresh the page, and now we have a rich text. So I'm going to say hello everyone, and then I'm going to add in a small picture. If for some reason you're running into issues with these attachments not working as you would expect, maybe you're getting an error that an undefined method, blah, 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 blah. I have a video that covers how to fix this that I recently uploaded. It covers active storage, which also touches on action text and how to fix this. I'll have a link to it in the video description. Small-ish picture. I'll click on it. I'll add a caption. I'll say it's muggy outside. And yes, I'm plugging my own merch. store.deanin.com, I think is how YouTubers do that. But now I'm going to click update post, and we see that the body is too long. The reason why is because this image, although it's very small, it has a lot of words in it. So to fix this, we have to come into our post.rb, and I'm just going to get rid of the validation of the length because we're now using rich text, and I'm going to refresh the page, and I'm going to say hello everyone again. I'll add in the mug. I probably didn't need to refresh, and I'm going to say it's muggy outside, and I'll click update post. Now, after my computer decides to work, I'm going to go over to the blog, and now we can see the post there. So that seems to be working. Let me try to search for this hello everyone just to make sure we're actually searching the body, and we are. And right here, we can even see the caption of the image. I click on this, it takes us to the image, and I can say nice mug. And then we can even do something like, I don't know, https://store.deanin.com. And we can grab this and, I don't know, turn it into a link. apply, and now we have a random link on our website, which we probably want to sanitize at some point. And it takes us to, yeah, okay, the store page. I get it. So now that we've shamelessly plugged this about 400 times, let's go ahead and let's full screen. I don't actually even know if any of that stuff is still in stock on the store. And let's start on the actual admin stuff. So let's come over to our app, our views, and I think our user and our session manager. This is where we have this little drop down worth of stuff over here. In here, I want to create another one of these. So I'm just going to copy this. And instead of having a new item here or a new post, we're going to change this to say admin. It's going to take us to the admin path. And I'm only going to do this if the current underscore user dot admin. And I can do that because up here, we're already checking if the current user is logged in. So by doing that, if I now come over here and refresh, we'll get an error. And the reason why we're getting an error isn't because we're trying to use an audio path like Rails thinks we are. It's just because we haven't defined this route yet. So let me stop the server, full screen it, and we're going to generate a controller. So I'm going to say Rails G controller, and I want to call this the admin controller. And I want to give it a couple different actions. So I'm going to give it an index. I'm going to give it a posts. I'm going to give it a comments, a users action, and a show underscore post action. I'll hit enter, and that'll generate our controller. I exit the full screen, run a Rails S to start the server, and refresh the page. We're still not going to have a path though. The reason why is because we have to come over to our config and our routes.rb. We have all of these, but we need to change this one to just be the admin path instead of admin index path. So let's get rid of the index, do a comma, and then we'll say to admin controller hash index action. Take that and I'll save it, refresh the page, and now that works. I can click on it and it works just fine. But there's a kicker. If I open up the application, sign in as john.doe.com at the password of password, I come over here. This is no longer available for me to log in as an admin, but if I try to go to /admin, it works just fine. Obviously not ideal. Now there's two different ways you can restrict this. You can come into the controllers, admin controller, and you can just do a before action to check if the admin is logged in. The other thing you can do is you can come into your routes and you can do a check before you even get to that point. In our routes, we can do a authenticated :user. We can grab the user and then we can say, is the user an admin? Just like we would in our view, for example. We can end this right here and then we can tab all of this over. So now we have these admin routes wrapped in a quick little function that just checks if the user that is being authenticated is an admin, or has been authenticated, I should say. And the reason why this works very nicely is because if we come over here and we refresh and now we try to go to /admin, it's actually going to 404 us and say that this just straight up doesn't exist. If you were to say that this does exist and it redirects you to like the login page, people might be able to piece together that the path exists, but that the user doesn't have permissions. And that might be enough for them to start looking for a way to access it, and they might find something else. This way, it just makes it seem like maybe you called it something that is an admin, and they're just not smart enough to figure out what it's called. So, okay, we now have the admin path that works just fine, and it's only visible to an actual admin. Let's come into our admin controller and our posts. And in here, I want to do an @posts equals post.all. And instead of doing the usual where we just order it, we're going to do a .includes for the :user :comments. And this just means that when it goes to get all of the posts, it's going to include the user and the comments. So if we come over here and we go to /admin/posts, when we come over to this URL, all this is going to do now is it's going to make sure that we only hit the database 3 times. Once for the post, once for the user, and once for the comments. Otherwise, we'd be hitting it 5 times for the comments, plus the user, plus the post, or whatever, if there's like 5 comments, which isn't ideal. We might also hit it multiple times if we start doing stuff like post.user.email or post.user.name. This way we have all of that already included, so we're only hitting it once for all of that. But okay, that takes care of the posts. Let's now do the show posts. So if this is just going to be a singular post, which we're going to say this is post.includes just like we did last time, the user and the comments. And we're going to do .find params ID. So this just allows us to grab a singular post and do a .find on it. Now that we've done that, we can come over to our app and our views and our admin, and we can come into the index page. Now we're going to get rid of the stuff that's in here, and we're just going to create a Bootstrap container. We're going to create a h1 and give it a class equal to text-center, which is just a Bootstrap class that allows us to center some text. And we're going to give this some text that just says administrator. We're then going to render a partial, which I called admin/nav_links. If we now try to refresh the page, or if we go to the admin page, I guess, we're going to run into a missing template error, which just means we have to create this template. So I'm going to right click new file, _nav_links.html.erb. Our nav link is going to have a .container as well as a .text-center. And if you're wondering how I'm doing that, I'm using Emmet, which is just if you go into File, Preferences, Settings, and you search for Emmet tab expansion, you just check this trigger expansion on tab button to enable that. But okay, what we want to do is we want to create a p tag in here. And inside of this p tag, we want to do a link to admin, admin_path. And then we're going to do a second set of code here, which is a string where we do a params, and we grab the action out of the params, which is just going to be whatever this word is, depending on what route we are in. So if we're in the show post route, it'll be show_post. If we're in the post page, it'll just be posts. So we're doing one of those things where it shows you the root link, a little caret symbol, and then whatever the next link in the route is. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to do a capitalize on it just to make it look better. And then the last thing I'm going to do is say only do this if we are not in the, let me see now, action.equal ? Index. So I want you to do this part with the caret unless our action is the index action. So let's take a look at why I did that. If I refresh the page, right here it says just the word admin. But if I go over to /posts, in here, let me just actually render this in the post page real quick. In the post page, it will then, I have to fix that. It will then say admin with the little caret symbol and then whatever the path is. So, okay, now that we've done that, we need to come back into the nav links. We actually need to create some links. So we're going to do a .btn-group, not dash vertical, .btn-group. GitHub Copilot is being incredibly helpful today. And then in here, what we want to do is we want to render a link for each of these, but instead of doing a different type of link for each, we're actually just going to do a render for a admin/link partial. And we're going to pass in a resource, and we're just going to give it, in this case, the post resource. We're going to copy this, paste it once, paste it twice, make the middle one a comment, and the last one a user. Let's come over to our admin folder and let's create a new file, _link.html.erb. And here what we want to do is a link to, and we're going to say resource.name. Let me actually move this down here. We're going to do resource.name. So that's the name of this resource, which is going to be post.name, which is just going to give us the string post. .capitalize, just in case for some weird reason we get a lowercase one. And then we're going to do a URL _for. We want this to be for :admin, resource, which is just going to give us a link to like /admin/post or /admin/comment /admin/user. And that's going to correlate to our routes here where we have admin/posts, admin/comments, admin/users, but not admin/show post because we're using that in a different way. Okay, so we have that. Let's now give this a class, and we'll give this a class of btn-primary. We'll save this. I'll exit out of the full screen, refresh the page. And now we see that this looks a little bit weird, but if I click, so let me come over here and full screen it and come into the nav links. We actually need to move this over here to do the capitalize properly because it's part of the Ruby code. If I now refresh, we now see posts, or if we grab this out of the post page, and I'll close the link. We grab this out of the post page and we put this in the users and the comments. Now, if we refresh, as we navigate between these, it'll change, and then we can always go back to the admin homepage just by clicking up there. So, okay, that takes care of all of that. The last thing we have to do is add in our actual post stuff. So let's full screen this, come over to post.html.erb. Inside of this container, but below everything else, is where we're going to get started. I'm going to create a table with a class of .table.table-dark.table-striped. Inside of this table, we need a t-head. Inside of this t-head, we need a tr. I'm having trouble speaking. And inside of this, I'm going to do a th, and I'm going to say times 4. I'm going to hit tab, and that creates 4 ths. And I'll give this first one an ID, this second one a post, this third one an author, and this fourth one a comments. And then for, I think each of these, it usually wants, and I think for each of these, it usually wants a scope as well. So I'm going to say, give this a scope equal to call. If you're wondering how I did that, I just hit Alt while I left clicked. Okay, so now we can come out of the th and we can do a t-body. Not to be confused with a tea bag, the kind that you drink, not the other kind. We can then do a @post.each, do post, end. And then in here, we once again need a th. Inside of this th, we need to do a post.id. We then need 3 tds. So I'm going to create 3 of those. First one is going to be a link post.title.truncate15, comma, admin underscore post underscore path, and then we'll pass in the post. We'll take a look at what's wrong with that in a second. The next one is going to be the post.user.name. And the last one's going to be a pluralize for the post.comments. And this was something that I didn't know until recently. But when you call post.comments.count, this will always hit the database a whole bunch of times to count the stuff. But because we included this, we can actually do .size, which I believe doesn't cause it to hit the database as much. The reason being because we include the post comments, it's just calculating the number of comments we included. If we did count, it would go out and it would say like select star from comments where post ID equals this post's ID, and then grab however many those are. I'm not entirely sure if that is true, but that's sort of what I read into while I was prepping this. Now that this is done, we need to close the TR, which I totally forgot to make. So let me go ahead and make the TR up here. And let's grab this first one and give this a scope equal to row. Let me exit out of this, refresh the page, and run into an error. And the error is here. It's trying to, or it's telling us that this path doesn't exist. So let's go ahead. I'm going to hit Control P, type routes, and hit enter. You can also go into config and routes.rb. Now in here, we have the show post route, but we actually need to change this a bit. Because of how I set this up in our index or inside of our post.html, it's going to admin underscore post underscore path. So this is going to be /admin/post/whatever. And then I'm giving it the post. So it has the post ID, which is going to look like this. So it's going to have the :ID in the route. In the browser, it'll look like this. It'll be /1 or /2 for whatever the ID is. So we need to actually create that in our routes. So we're going to say get admin show post, comma, to. It's going to go to admin post or show underscore post, comma, as, and then we're going to name this admin underscore post. And that's how we're just assigning the name to the route. If we now refresh the page, we can see that our table appears here. Of course, this isn't working for the comments and the users because that's sort of up to you guys to set up. But as far as the posts go, it's working. If we now click on one of these, you can see here it doesn't work. We go to admin show underscore post .1. And the reason why is because we have admin slash show post, but we actually need to do /:ID to sort of inject the ID into the route. If we now go back, refresh the page and click on one of these, it takes us to the admin show page. Now we're going to come up to the admin show page, full screen this, and I'm going to try to copy paste some of this just because there is a little bit here. So the first thing is we have our container, we then have our H1, and we render our nav links just like we did everywhere else. I'll come down here and I'll close the div and save this. After we render the nav links, we then create that button group with the edit and the delete for this post. So in terms of that, we have the text-center MT-5 for the actual container of the button group. That just centers it and gives it a margin top of 5, which is from Bootstrap. Then creates a button group, creates a link to the edit post path. I got a little bit lazy here. It's just linking to the default edit page, which will then take you to the actual post path, I think, after you're done. But you could, of course, change this and create your own admin edit path if you wanted to. It then has a class of BTN warning. And then I have a button to for the delete because it needs to be a button to now. Takes you to the @post with a method of delete. And I don't think the data confirm fires because we're using so much turbo that everything's running a little bit weird. And then we give this a class of danger. If I exit out of this and refresh, you can see this is what it looks like now. So for my first post, if I click edit, it takes me to the default edit page here. And if I click delete, it'll tell us that active record has many through, can't, blah, 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 blah. The reason why it's doing that is because I did a dumb previously. We have to go into our models and our post.rb, and the notifications through the user should not be dependent destroy. So I'll save that, refresh, go back, click on the first one, click on delete, and it redirects us to the post path, which is just because we're deleting through the post controller. If you wanted it to redirect you to the admin path, you would need a separate route of some sort to do that deletion. But I can just come back over to the admin posts and click on number 1 now to keep going. So let me full screen this and come back over to the show post. Now this is the part where things get a little bit repetitive. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of copy pasting again. We're going to create a div with a class of row MT-1. Inside we'll put a p tag, give it a title inside of a strong tag, and the post title. That's just going to cause it to bold the word title over here. I do something very similar right below it for the views. I then do something similar below it for the user. So I call it author instead. You could, of course, change this word if you wanted to. And I open up some Ruby code, and inside of a string, I do the @post.user.email or @post.user.name, or pluralize the @post.user.views, and I give it the word view so that if like the number is 0, 1, 2, or 3, it changes it to view or views respectively. And that just causes it to look like this when you do it. So I have to move these up into this div. Let me make sure this is placed correctly. There we go. So we have the views of 0, the author of dean@example.com, Dean, and then 0 views, which is just what these little pipe bars are doing here. It's just breaking up the stuff so it looks a bit better. Once we've done that, we can then create the body, which is again a row MT-1 body, and it's the @post.body. Now, the reason why I don't bother giving this one any sort of like formatting or anything is just because this can get really wild. Like if we come back to post and go back to the last one, the body is going to have the image inside of it because we're rendering this entire partial. Partial is really helpful because it has the whole action text shebang inside of it, but of course it means that there's no real point in formatting this. But okay, after we do that, we can then create another, after we're done with that, we can then create another div. This is going to be for the comment count. So we do pluralize at post.comments.count, the word comment. We actually need to close this div because this other one is for the container. Once we're in here, we can then do a at post.comments.each do comment, which is just iterating through all of the at post comments, which we already included in our admin controller. So we're not hitting the database for those, except I think we did it for the show post, not for the posts. We can then inside of this, just do a very quick loop through where we do the comment.user.name and the comment.body. I think in this case, you could even argue that you could include the comments user as well, so you're not hitting the database for that. But at a certain point, like, I have to draw the line for these tutorials somewhere. Otherwise, we'll be here all day optimizing stuff. But as soon as we do that, we can now refresh. And if we scroll down, we have all of these different comments here. And you can see here, it even has my shameless plug of the store. But okay, that's going to do it for this video. If you're interested in a tutorial on how these images work in action text or how to upload images with active storage, I recently did a video on that. It covers some of the dependencies you need, as well as 2 different options for how to use the images. One is a little bit quicker than the other, but it requires a different dependency. I'll have a link to that video on the screen right now.